my phenomenal friend, Michelle Prince.
We're super excited to be here, and I have a question for you. And think about this. What is some of the best advice that you've ever heard that you ignored? Right about good. I planted her, front row right there. No, maybe it was an investment, investing in something. Maybe it was doing something.
Don't marry him.
Don't marry him. That would have been some really good advice for some people to listen to, right? It wasn't Mindy at all. So Mark Cuban actually, he had some advice to buy this some stock in this itty bitty little tech company, and his $250,000 investment today would be worth $2 billion. And that's Uber, which I don't feel sorry for Mark Cuban. I think he's doing just fine without that little investment. But those are some things. We've all had advice. We've all had things that, maybe at the time we just didn't think it was the right advice for us, and then later look back and think, oh, maybe it was. All right, what else? Let me ask it a different way. How many of you have had some advice that you wish you ignored? If it's your spouse and you're sitting next to them, do not say anything, right? Okay, well, we've all had plenty of advice, and I have some advice that I wish I would have ignored. It's that hairdo, right? Some of you are thinking, WTH, why the hair? Those of you who know me, you've seen this picture before. It still cracks me up though, because honestly, okay, I live in Texas here, and there was a thing, especially in this period of time, it was like, the higher the hair, the closer to God.
Amen.
Yes? Does anyone understand what I'm talking about? So I'm thinking I looked really good, but this really was some advice from some of my peers, and honestly, looking back, I'm like, what the heck was I thinking? Not great advice. But again, we all get advice. I actually had some advice that was given to me a long, long, long time ago. And I can't say I ignored it. I just didn't understand it at the time. And now I totally understand it. And I wish I knew then what I know now. Because this advice changed my life. And I'll share it with you. To live like the 1%, you can't think like the 99%. Let me say that again. To live like the 1%, you can't think like the 99%. Do we have any 1%ers in this room? Do we have anybody who wants to be a 1%er in this room? Yes, right. This is the Business Growth Conference. If you're here and you don't want to be a 1%er, it's probably time to go. Because businesses that grow become the 1%. And this advice, I remember, I wish again I would have taken it, because what does 1% mean as a business owner? When you're a 1%er, you get more referrals. You get more clients. You have the upper hand, the advantage against your competitors. You have authority. That is what a 1%er is. And that's what we all want, isn't it? And there's power in that. And so that's some really great advice that I'm here today because I want to share some advice that I have learned. This is part of this, and I'm going to share some other advice with you too. And if I do my job right, this advice is also going to change your life. You know who is one of my favorite 1%ers? Mr. Zig Ziglar. I know most of us in this room know Zig, love Zig. I worked for Zig. I won't go into the whole story, but he was a 1%er. You know why? He did things different. He didn't do what everyone else did. He stood for something. He stood for a lot of things. He said no when everyone else was saying yes. Or he said yes when everyone else was saying no. And one of the things that I remember working for him back in the day is, and these were 1% things that he taught me when I was 23 years old. I was in sales. And I remember some advice that he gave. He gave it to everybody. But I remember taking it in and really absorbing it and really owning it and believing it. And it's what really made all the difference for me in my sales career, which I've gone on to be very successful in sales. And the advice was, you're a CEO of your own company. Here I was, small, little itty-bitty, just green salesperson making less than $20,000 a year, and I was CEO of my own company. Do you know what that meant? That means I owned what I did. I knew that getting there 30 minutes early is gonna make my company better. I knew that if I stayed 30 minutes late, it would make my company better. And so that's some incredible advice that I learned from my hero, Zig Ziglar. And definitely it's worthwhile passing along because that advice changed my life. I also heard some advice from Zig, and Howard had no idea that I was gonna mention this. But he just said it.
One of my favorite things everywhere, the last several years especially, the advice Zig would give to everyone in the room was, or he would ask, "You written a book? You need to write a book." And I remember just taking that in. And that advice, that one piece of advice, it has literally changed my life. It has changed his life. It has changed Howard's life. And anyone else in this room, it has changed their lives. In fact, how many people in this room have written a book? Raise your hand. How many of you have thought about writing a book? Raise your hand. How many of you have seen a book? Raise your hand. Hey, come on, gotta get us going here. Let's get a little bit of energy here. All right. Okay, well, here's the thing. I want to show you, I really want you to listen to what I'm going to say today, because many of you have heard me many times before. I'm going to say it a little bit differently this time, though. And I want you to really consider this a tool for your business. It will change your life.